Quick acknowledgements and welcome country. We're meeting on the traditional land of the Kaurna people, and we acknowledge their elders past, present, and emerging. All right, so welcome everyone to the Adelaide Microsoft IT Pro Community July 2025 Meetup. I'm Andrew Young, and with me is Shahan Pereira. If you've not met me and it's your first time, I am a modern work security specialist, I guess. Currently at Ticket Data, also Microsoft MVP in security, and I am mostly active on LinkedIn and have other content and so on.
Hi all, I'm Shahan. I'm an architect in Unified Endpoints and Identity in Bastion Technology Services. That's my QR codes, all the information. I'm also a Microsoft MVP in Microsoft Security. And you got my blog emsroute.com, where I usually write a lot about those technologies. And also you can find me in LinkedIn and X as well.
Yes. All right. Thanks again for Microsoft for hosting us, Stematech and Brett for keeping our meet afloat, and Dick for letting me be here, and of course the food and refreshments and so on are from myself and Shahan. Thanks, screen. All right, so we'll go through the what's new, what's coming, and all that. In the compliance side of things, we just heard from Microsoft that they're announcing, or they've actually released, the sovereign cloud. So over in Europe, where everything's a bit more data sensitive, they've got their own. We're good. Yeah. Yeah. So they've got their own. Data residency regulations, GDPR, and so on. So now they're extending that so they can have Azure Local. So that's like a hybrid converged infrastructure. So your own on-prem, leveraging some of the Azure cloud, but also they've got M365 Local now, so they can have their own kind of instance or their tenant that lives within their own environment. So extra data residency and sovereignty in place. So particularly in some of those sensitive countries there. So Microsoft's moving in heavily in this space. Do you want to add anything to that? I'm just rambling.
Going back full circle. so back to server.
Yeah, full circle. Never moving away from tin. We're also seeing there's a couple of new cloud regions. So Malaysia and Indonesia were announced not that long ago. So during the AI tours that Microsoft have been doing, they've got new data centers coming up, and they will now have their own advanced data residency and multi-geo offerings as well. So that's being able to, again, either move data that was in another region into your actual region, or having multiple branch offices across different regional geographic areas. This is yours.
Yes. So if you have seen or have used the Entra Connect Sync, where you sync your users and devices into Entra, the hybrid connector. So the new version, which is basically higher than 2.5.3.0, now the connecting username that came with a username and a password, now it's application ID based, so it doesn't have a password anymore. So this will be another part of the whole passwordless initiative that Microsoft is doing. So it's a certificate based, and you can get Microsoft to manage that certificate, rotate, update, delete, create if they want to, and you can bring your own application, and if not, you can bring your own certificate as well. So it's more secure because there's no password to breach. So that's one of the new things that are coming in the latest Entra Connect Sync tool. Yes. So app catalog. So this is what's new in Intune. So app catalog is something that's coming up with Intune Suite, or as an add-on when it comes to Intune licensing. So app catalog is basically where you go in and search for the application in order to install with the autopilot or into your other devices when it comes to Windows. So the ESP blocking is basically the ESP screen is what you get in Intune when you're running the autopilot. So you can block that screen until all the applications have been installed. So this was not a part. So the application catalog apps was not a part of that process earlier. It's only the standard applications where you upload into Intune in order to install into your devices. So now you can select the app catalog apps as well. So for an example, you can easily find VLC Play for an example, rather than creating an app and uploading it to Intune. In the same way, you can get that app to install before the autopilot process finishes. So that's one of the good things as well.
That's really cool. I didn't read too much into it, but it makes sense.
Came with the June update.
Oh, yeah.
Recent update. Yes. So Intune reporting is always laggy and slow. We all know that. So this is something new. So they are testing a lot of new things when it comes to reporting and give some near real time data for the users. So this is a new service, which is the policy reporting service version 3. It's been rolled out at the moment. So better data consistency and reliable data when it comes to Intune reporting. So I don't know if you have seen this or not, but yeah, mostly Windows updates, application updates, and also configuration changes and how it reports back to Intune. So this service will handle those sort of tasks.
Same vein, the Microsoft Intune connector for AD. So that's if you've got a hybrid setup, so hybrid Entra ID joining your devices. That connector is now no longer using the system account. So you will need to remove the existing one and install the latest version of the connector, as that uses a managed service account. And that's all part of the Secure Future initiative from Microsoft. So if you hadn't updated that connector, your devices will not be able to enroll at all until you do that. So make sure if you are using Intune in a hybrid configuration, make sure you do that. Just a reminder again, Windows 10 is going end of life or end of support, extended support in October on the 14th. So make sure you got a plan to either migrate or upgrade rather to Windows 11 or adjacent operating systems. Pivoting slightly into M365, it is unavoidable, but talk on AI. There is a new FAQ web part in SharePoint, which is powered by Microsoft 365 Copilot. So as you can see there in the flyout menu, you can set up your knowledge sources or your source files rather on where you store those responses to certain frequently asked questions. So essentially, you will need a license if you want to create or edit the FAQ, but the viewers don't need a license. That's nice. This is effectively you creating the FAQ. So your categories are your expandable sections and then general frequently asked questions. So what then happens once you save this is the AI will then answer those questions based on its knowledge sources. So you'll get those generative responses there. So as you expand, you'll see the content that's been created automatically for you. So it's very similar to if you set up like an agent, point it to the same documents and you can talk to it interactively, whereas this is more of a static response. So again, you don't necessarily need to know the answers. You can just ask AI to generate them for you. And if people have more questions, you just throw it into the list there, and it'll generate the answers for you. The new M365 Copilot app is now available for macOS. Staring at the one macOS user in the room that I know of confidently. But yeah, the new UI has everything on the left-hand side, as we would have saw a couple of months back. Yeah, same deal. Make sure you deploy it securely, safely, soundly. I throw this up every month, but there's security training in each flavor of Microsoft's Defender products. There's effectively a curated list of all the resources to read through, and then an assessment in Microsoft Forms afterwards, and you'll get a certificate of completion afterwards. If you're really keen, there's also a Cloud Native App Protection Policies ebook floating about in the wild. It's the next step, I guess. Microsoft Learn, we talked about this last month. There's going to be a new Copilot specialization for partners. There's going to be some really high requirements to get that. So not just from a skilling point of view, but having customers, monthly active usage, extra growth, showing that they're using agents and so on. So for the partners in the room, that's something to look out for. Hasn't quite been announced just yet for the go live, but I imagine in the next few weeks, particularly with the new partner year or the new financial year coming about. Same time, there's some new applied skills we mentioned last time. So showing that you know how to create those agents in Copilot Studio, managing your Entra ID, identities, and so on. And if you wanted to, there's a bit of C# programming as well. Just overnight, or soon to be overnight, the GitHub certification exams. I'm moving away from the PSI Online to Peace and View, which will be probably a nicer experience. Not that I tried to join a PSI exam last night that didn't launch. The learning paths are already on Microsoft Learn, so all the content around the foundations, the administration, and Copilot, and whatever else is coming out for GitHub. You'll find the courses and the learning paths there. Recently announced is the Microsoft Docs MCP server. So that is what's called Model Context Protocol, and that lets you use the Microsoft Learn data as your knowledge source for your own agents or AI assistants. Lots of talk. The Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador Program. I think it's currently on a pause. One of the attendees did try to sign up for this, and I think they're in the midst of doing all the renewals for the current MVPs. So I think once they've finished that and announced who's renewed and all that, they'll probably let us know what the next stage is for the student ambassadors, because I imagine that they'll still want them to be doing it. So we'll let you know once we hear an update on that. There's Student Accelerator meetups in person and online as well. I haven't got the link for the online one, but I'll drop that in the show notes afterwards as well. But educators and uni and higher education students will come along to these, and they'll present, show off their own use cases and so on. And quick whip around the local community. We've got various user groups in Adelaide covering specific domains and products there. I think we've got almost one for everything really at this point. Maybe not biz apps, but yeah. They went national, so there is a national biz apps user group. You guys take a photo of the things. We're all on meetup.com, so it makes it a bit easier to find. In terms of what's coming, we've got a few events. Being interested, there's an Acodus Winter School Microsoft Skills Bootcamp. So it's designed for higher education students to register and enroll for one of the fundamentals exams. So for be it AI or security, M365 or whatever, it's just a few days worth of training through this program. There's also some mentorship behind it as well. So it's a good opportunity for the people coming into the career world as well. Microsoft's got a cloud and AI bootcamp, so another opportunity for you to earn some digital badges. But this one's all around obviously cloud and AI and productivity. Partner event. There's developer events coming up in the next half. Microsoft Ignite flagship conference, a data and BI event in Sydney as well, Definity conference. There's probably some more that I haven't listed there, and we'll try and capture those in the future meetups. For ourselves, at this stage, we've still got Anto coming on to talk about his M365 desired state config content. Still to be confirmed, a few sessions. Daniel said he was keen to show us some of his Opal AI in October. We'll see. He'll probably be coming live from KuberPD. I think we should be doing a joint event in December again, and then January, depending on the level of interest, we might do another workshop. We had one this year in January where Pete, who you would have seen walking in and out of the room before, we did a speakers or presentation masterclass. So we might do something similar, or it might even be a technical one. But yeah, please give us your feedback on what you'd like to see or do or hear, or if you want to present, because we haven't got anything lined up for next year yet. So that QR code goes to the form to request topics or to offer to speak, I guess. Anything could be however long you'd like, 15 minutes, 20, 30, an hour. Let us know. In case you missed it, we started a new podcast started this year. It's out of band, Microsoft Security Podcast. So Shahan, Anthony, and myself run this. There's a QR code, the LinkedIn page. We're on most, if not all, podcast platforms, I believe. So Spotify, YouTube, and so on, Apple Podcasts. So we cover Microsoft security products and stuff that goes on. You might have also missed this, but there is now a new Discord community server. It's called SAIT Connect. There's a QR code to join. So this has come about. So Matthew Clark, who was here 2 months back, he's had someone reach out to him asking, is there something that bridges all of the people in Adelaide or SA around IT? And there was no Discord server as far as I was aware, and people like Discord. So he's spun it up and he's just started throwing the link out everywhere. So there's people coming in now. It's a good place to connect with professionals, job seekers, students, and so on. So there's resources around learning and careers and so on. But ideally, we'd be able to point people to and from the server to the user groups and so on. So all of the meetup links are in there as well. So looping back, so Matthew Clark, he's the guy who talked about his book last time. So he has got a free ebook around low tech skill security best practices. So the elderly, the children in your family circles. So being able to just sign up to his service here. It's like a newsletter. He'll send you out security tips, but once you do that, he'll give you a copy of the ebook. You can get a physical copy of it, but you just have to pay the printing fee for that. But that's his website there, secureinseconds.com. He's also got an email alias tool as well. So when you sign up for things like his newsletter, you can kind of hide your actual email address and use his service to sign up for all the stuff that will probably give you all the spam. All right, I've talked so much. So we've got Ben Teoh with us today. It's been a hot year since we've had him in the user group, but he's a change manager and adoption specialist at Generation E, and he's here to talk to us about the fun time of adopting and governing Copilot, agents, AI, and so on.
All the things.
Yeah, all the things that you're using.
Hello. Let me turn it on. Okay. Yes, great. So thanks for coming over. It is so cold outside. I am used to working at home. I stepped outside and this is the worst. So thank you for braving the cold. As Andrew said, I work with Generation E. We are essentially a Microsoft partner, and we do a lot of systems integration, and we have a long history of actually doing AV installations. And so things like this, something like service hubs and the devices you see out in the foyer. And naturally, the way that things work is that, hey, people want to meet and collaborate with the systems and technology, but they're using Teams as the platform. And the evolution of Teams and collaboration and the tools we use has been really interesting over the years. And most recently, just like Microsoft has shifted, we are now heavily focused on enabling people to use Copilot more as part of their work. So doing a lot of engagements with Copilot. Last time I was here, I'm just conscious of the audio. Lower it a little bit. Last time I was here, my intent was to share information about how to handle change management if you're an IT professional, you haven't done it before, and now it's your responsibility not just to enable devices or turn on systems, but actually to get users using it. And that can be a whole shift in your mindset. And so we shared a whole bunch of information at that session. And Hello, hello. Okay. That wasn't me. Cool. Clicker. So when it comes to Copilot, and today we're not necessarily talking about the details of how to use Copilot, unless there's a growing demand in the audience. Want to shift gears, we can do that as well. But this is more about rolling it out and what it takes to adopt it, and sharing stories of what we've been doing with some of our clients, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and particularly where people get stuck, because it is a different approach to the way that we do technology. A lot of what I'm going to cover off is going to include resources from the Microsoft adoption site. So if you are responsible for rolling out IT and you're looking for guides, I'll be sharing a whole bunch of slides like this, QR codes, websites, and this will take you to all the resources that I would recommend if you're doing a DIY approach to rolling out Copilot. Okay, so Copilot, we start with the people. Because of the way these generative AI tools work and the way that Copilot accesses your own data. So we're talking about the full Microsoft 365 Copilot license here, right? So the way that it accesses your graph data, the way it accesses your SharePoint, your OneDrive, your chat, your emails, all those sorts of things. Copilot is a very personal technology. It's not like Word where you go like, oh, you know, everyone uses the same template, everyone uses the same sort of buttons. You prompt Copilot with one thing one day, and the person next to you will prompt it with the same thing, they'll get a different result. And so it's very hard to say, oh, use this exact steps and you'll always get the same result. So the challenge there is that how do we work with people to get them over that hurdle? Because it's not always obvious when you're getting the result that you want. So last time I came, we talked about the good old ADKAR model where whenever it comes to adoption and change management, we're thinking, how do we get individuals to actually do the thing, right? Actually use it. ADKAR is a tried and true method or model that you can use, and it's something to keep in mind. So one is, you know, as an individual, are you aware of the technology? Do you want to actually use the technology? Do you know how to use it, the knowledge? Can you put that in practice, which is the actual ability? So people might go, oh yeah, I've heard of prompt engineering or prompting. I've got an idea about it. You put them in front of a computer and they try it. They don't get the result they want. And they're like, no, I don't have time for this. I'm going to do something else instead. I can tell you 100%, this is where I was when Copilot first came out. So excited. Done all of the awareness. I know what it is. I really want to use it. I've got a pretty good idea of what it is. My first prompt in, I'm like, this is not creating all of my tasks for me or able to automate my life. Because that was the hype, right? That was the promise that we're going to have these AI tools that are going to change the way we work. So that was me like checking out quite early on. But it comes down to reinforcement. And I think reinforcement is really the key for Copilot. You can teach people to prompt, but they really need to explore and test it out. Okay, so the question and where people get stuck is, do I actually care about this product at all? So generally speaking, you're going to get about 5% of people, and look, these numbers, they'll differ depending on the organizations, but based on sort of what we've been seeing is that you get the enthusiasts, the early adopters, they're super keen to use it. They're probably using ChatGPT or Claude or something themselves. They've explored maybe Notebook LM, played with a podcast feature, done all those sorts of things. They want to get into it. They are great, but they are chaotic. They'll be the ones who will be firing up agents and publishing agents into your Power Platform environments without you knowing. You need to just spend some time with them. What I'd probably recommend for these people, I would say, go across. These guys are going to be potentially your change champions, right? If you want to find a group of people who can push the boundaries to find out where the gaps are, find out, hey, I probably shouldn't have access to this data, these are the people that you can recruit. So rather than just letting them go wild, just bring them along, give them a bit of a platform as well, and give them a specific role. Say, hey, look, I get that you're really keen. Let's put some boundaries around this. Why don't you become a change champion? we'll give you early access to the tool and you can have a bit of a play with it. So what we're doing here is just thinking about the types of people that we're going to encounter as we start rolling out Copilot. On the other end of the spectrum, you'll have your skeptics, and sometimes these will be the important people in the organization. They might be your sort of middle managers who have been through all the tech hype before. They've been promised that, this tool is going to change the way that you work. And they realize, they don't buy into the hype. They realize that it's not as amazing as everyone makes it out to be. And so they'll be the hard ones to bring across to convince that Copilot's going to be a thing. Again, in terms of the approach, what they want to see is value. So they want to see use cases that match the way that they work, as opposed to like, here's a tool, go play with it, try out, try to do your prompt injections with this thing. Those are your enthusiasts, right? But your skeptics are going to hold back until they have access to it. The secret to these guys is actually not to work necessarily directly with them straight away, but to work with the people who influence them. So that might be the people who report up to them. Work with them and say, hey, you guys are the ones who actually do the work. Here's how Copilot can work for you. Once you've worked that out, go talk to your manager and explain to them about how good it is. Or it might be someone who's more senior and they can work down. But I would recommend working with the people who influence them. Next is the bulk of your people who are the people who are doing the work, right? They're just in there doing day-to-day stuff. They're already busy. They probably don't have time to learn another new tool that you're rolling out. You've probably just rolled out a whole bunch of other policies because you need to secure your heart and your systems before you roll out Copilot. And so they're a bit over it. But what they need to know is what's in it for me. And it takes time. Like, it really does take time with Copilot. So it's all about this continual reinforcement. Hey, you've got Copilot now. Why don't you start prompting, test it out, do as much as you can. You can't communicate too much either. So when I say over-communicate, a lot of the time when it comes to change management, we're really hesitant about talking too much to our users. They're like, people don't want to hear all these messages. But if you can communicate good stories, if you can communicate good use cases to people that can encourage them to start playing more with Copilot, I'm sure what you'll see is more engagement eventually. I'd also encourage you to think about, what are the resources that we're putting behind it? So whether you create like a center of excellence, so you might create a SharePoint site, maybe pull together some resources, run drop-in sessions, run workshops, do all that sort of stuff. If you're using Viva Engage, there's a really cool Copilot community template, which helps you roll out content to your users. You can do that or use Microsoft Teams. And then there's ones that you may notice, but they're probably the hard ones to engage. They're the people who struggle. Like, they're the ones who are probably struggling already with computer usage, and now they have another tool they need to use. So probably lower on the digital literacy experience. But personally, I feel they're the ones who you can get the best outcomes from, because they're probably the ones who need it the most. Here's a new, easier way to maybe assess your emails. Here's a new way that you can just use natural language to engage with your computer. You don't have to remember all the button presses. What we've found that works really well, and this actually works across the board, is just to slow things down a bit. When we buy into the hype of all the AI tools, sometimes it's easy just to go, hey, look, all the fancy new things, roll it out, roll it out, roll it out. If we slow it down, give people time to assess it, it works really well. They also really appreciate in-person support. And I don't mean like just, jump on a Teams meeting. It's sitting next to them, showing them, hey, you've actually found yourself inside an agent. That's not the proper Copilot chat. Use this one. Here are the words to press. I'll wait until you finish typing. Those are the people who really need the help the most. But again, like I said, there's a real opportunity for growth. And for them, what works really well is creating these safe spaces for experimenting. What you usually find is that they are hesitant to even get started because they're worried that they're going to break something, because that's what the traditional thing is like, don't click on this button, otherwise you'll delete all your files. Like you can't really do that with Copilot. So they're hesitant to start prompting at the start. So they need time, and also giving them a good mix of learning resources. Okay, so if I'm thinking now, how do I work with these people? How do I make sure that they have all the things that they need? What are the resources that I have available to me that I can access? So let me just show you some of these for you. One, if you haven't seen this one already, the Microsoft Scenario Library is quite good. So if I'm thinking about those skeptics and they want really practical experiences, I jump into the Microsoft Scenario Library where it has step-by-step instructions. If I want to have like a one-stop shop for people just to learn all about Copilot, this is actually decent. So one thing I can say is that Microsoft have been really good at releasing new adoption materials. And this one is sort of where I point most of our end users rather than creating new content myself. So there are videos there are interactive sessions that you can participate in, there are lots of prompts that they can try out, and there are customizable options when you jump into the actual gallery too. So I recommend sharing this one. So if you are rolling this out and you want to have resources available for people, just give them this link. Or what I usually do is I'll grab a couple of the pages and I'll put that in a SharePoint site for people to access. Yeah. So that's your people. So once they're sort of up and running, the next place that they will likely get stuck on is the prompts. So it's always like, summarize my emails, or like, I don't know, catch me up on my tasks with this person. Like those are the basic ones that that come up quite often in the Microsoft scenarios. But a lot of people want to go deeper on this. And so the question is like, how do I actually get Copilot to be useful? So if I'm thinking about how would I support people? One, frameworks are really good. So I don't know if you've seen this sort of framework before in terms of your prompts, but looking at something like goal, context, expectations, and source, it's really about, hey, if you're thinking about how you're talking to Copilot, you're treating it a little bit like a graduate student, you know, a really smart 8-year-old. You need to make sure that you're articulate with what you're trying to get out of it. So what is the task I want? So one, have that goal. I want to create a blog post about, responsible AI practices at work. I don't know. Give it a context. It's because I need to present this to my senior leadership so they can fund more Copilot experiences. I don't know. Expectations. What is the output? So write it as, be professional, all those sorts of things. And then source is a secret where it's like, hey, look at this document, and this website, use this information and provide a result for me. So frameworks like this are great to get people started. The other part of it is explaining to people, Copilot and generative AI works really well when you have a conversation with it, instead of just trying to do it like a Google search where you put in one thing and then scan through the results. It's a back and forth that you have to have with Copilot. So explaining that multi-turn conversation is really good. And this works well for all those people who are a bit hesitant on using Copilot, because it means that you don't have to get it all right at the start. It means you can refine as you go and you just talk as you would with a person. One that I love in terms of prompting, and this works well for your senior executives, is trying to get Copilot to ask questions of you or be critical of who or of what you're doing. So what I would do here is, maybe it's like prepping for today. So I say, I'm creating a change management workshop for IT professionals. What are the sorts of things that we should talk about? We go through that. And I might brainstorm back and forth. And eventually I'll get to a point where I'm like, I don't know if I'm even hitting the mark on this. What are some of the things that I've missed? or if you were part of this audience, what are the things that you would want to know? And so getting Copilot to be critical of me has actually been really valuable. And if you're in a leadership space where you're working in strategy, or if you've done any of those 360-degree leadership survey sorts of things, this is really helpful. There's also, in terms of your prompt itself, the good old ask me clarifying questions until you're 90% confident of the accuracy of your response. If you haven't done that one already, it's a quick go-to to make sure that your prompts work well. And then finally, in terms of making sure it's useful, again, just making sure that people feel comfortable experimenting with it. Testing it and iterating on it is great. So how do I get it to be useful? Another part of this is often you'll get people say, I get a better response from ChatGPT. And look, honestly, you probably will, like, because ChatGPT is tuned differently, right? And we're upfront with users about that. If you thought about Copilot versus ChatGPT, it's a little bit like having a personal phone and a work phone. Your work phone is going to be a little bit more restrictive. It's going to be designed for different purposes, and you'll get a different result from it, right? So this is a good opportunity here. Like when they're talking about, I get this from that one, that Copilot really is built with security in mind, responsible AI policies built across it. You'll get a more corporate response than ChatGPT, but that's by design, right? It's meant to be a work tool, right? So test and iterate, see what you can actually get out of Copilot. All right. So in terms of tools that really help this idea of prompting, a lot of people don't realize that there is a prompt gallery that you have access to as an individual. So you can save your prompts and access those later. But what's really cool is that you can share them with other people. So if we think about how we roll out Copilot or how we get Copilot adoption, having people share their prompts with other people works really well. So imagine you have that enthusiast who's like, I'm smashing out like 8,000 character prompts with all this like chain of thought, tree of thought stuff loaded up into my prompt. They can take that and share that with other people who might not be so far along the journey in terms of how they're developing prompts. And this is excellent. So as an individual, I can jump into my prompt gallery. I can see prompts I've saved and also prompts that have been shared with my teams that I have access to. And these are really good. So in terms of adoption, this is excellent because it's not you as the IT professional telling people what to prompt. It's people that they work with discovering prompts and sharing that with each other. Another thing that works really well, and this gets back to what we're talking about creating safe spaces, people need to be given time to play with the tools. It's very rare that you might say, hey, let's spend half a day and play with Microsoft Word, no, that doesn't sound very exciting at all. But if you run a promptathon, it's there are tools that you can do to use to do this, but essentially it's we run it as a half day or a full day, and the idea is that you do a prompt masterclass together. Everyone gets on the same page on how to prompt, and then you get to tackle a real business issue that you as a group might have, and look at how to inject Copilot into each of those steps that you might go through to fulfill a workflow. But what's really good about this is that you have people talking about prompts. The last experience that we had running one of this, we had literally like 3 EAs who were sitting next to each other just staring at the prompt, not knowing where to start. And so it was good just to come alongside them and say, okay, let's start with a basic one. They're like, I don't know. Am I saying the right thing? Do I need to say please and thank you? You're like, no, just right. Let's just go. We had another person on a table going, he was just sharing how he was using it to develop macros for Excel, and with people who he would not normally talk to as well in terms of business. So these promptathons are really fun. They're great. If you want to run your own, yeah, definitely there are resources on the Microsoft website that you can access. There are videos on how to run it, all those sorts of things. But it's all about giving people time and space to play and not break things. All right. Often when we are working with a client, they'll give us a license in their tenant as well. So we did a rollout for 500 licenses. They gave us a tenant, and we ran something like 57 workshops and sessions over like 3 months. It was insane. Anyway, so we're doing a demo, and the one demo that I love to do is in Copilot writing. Imagine you are whatever manager. Depending on our communication, depending on our chats and messages, what are the things that they might be interested about a topic? So it might be presentation or whatever. What Copilot does, looks at your interactions with them. It looks at like what sort of files that you can see of theirs, or what sort of files they've been working on. Nothing that goes beyond what I already have access to. And it says, this person would be interested in this because they've been working on that. So anyway, as an external contractor, pop that in. Hey, look, how cool is this, everyone? Straight after the session, I get a chat message from the head of legal who was in the session. And she's like, so how do you have access to that project file? And I'm like, why did that project file come up on your demo? I'm like, I guess I have access to it. So we had to do a bit of a deep dive in their SharePoint environment. And it turned out someone on their project team had saved it like 4 levels deep in a SharePoint folder under like Megan's files. And in that folder were like the project documents plus a whole bunch of other project documents she'd been working on. So just be cautious. I guess from an IT perspective, the message is that, hey, Copilot will only have access to the content and the security, all that sort of stuff that you as an individual already have. But the reality is it's not always well implemented in organizations. And so there are some really cool tools that are available to you now that you can use that for. But from a user perspective, and I'm thinking as an end user, if I'm using Copilot, where I get stuck here is like, am I actually doing the right thing? Am I allowed to be accessing these files? If I create a new file based on another file, what happens to those sensitivity labels? All those sorts of questions. The other part of it is like, is my data actually correct? And this is probably one of the other areas where people get stuck, is that it's awesome that Copilot has access to your SharePoint files. It is also terrible that Copilot has access to your SharePoint files because they're a mess, right? In terms of like data lifecycle management, all those sorts of things, it's the old garbage in, garbage out. If you haven't tidied up your SharePoint files first, it's a mess. And so you have all this content sprawl, all those sorts of things. Now, the good thing is you do have a tool like SharePoint Advanced Management that you can use to do a bit of an audit of your files and get a sense of what's going on there. And there are other tools in there. But for users, this might be the other place they get stuck. And it's not necessarily a Copilot thing. It's more of a information management thing. It's all those projects, and we were talking to Andrew before, and they're saying, we will often talk to IT people about this. They're all aware of it, but no one's had time to actually do it. Like it gets put on the back burner for every other project, like information management, data security policies, retention labels, all those sorts of things. Now is the time to tidy that up. Because users are going to have a bad time if your information isn't right. The other part is my data safe? So, having all your policies in place, not like in terms of your governance policies, but also your actual like technical policies as well. So, you might have your purview policies in place. There's also a new tool, the data. I've got this around the wrong way. Data security posture management for AI. That's a really cool tool as well that you can use to explore, oversharing and all those sorts of things. But again, if your SharePoint environment, your information environment isn't great, you don't get those real benefits from Copilot, and people do get stuck here. There was another point I was going to say, but I've forgotten it. That's okay. All right. So, am I doing the right thing? It's the key thing for people. Like, I want to make sure that all of this is right. Internally at Generation E, we had long discussions of, hey, we need to redo all of our templates. We need to redo everything so that it can work nicely with Copilot. So that's a challenge. Okay. So in terms of how to do all that, this is actually good. So, and like I say like actually good because one of the things with Microsoft is that they're always evolving their products. New things are coming out, and what happens is you're going to like Microsoft Learn, you're going to the support articles, you're going to the blogs. There's bits and pieces everywhere. The Copilot control system isn't one product. It's a framework of different products. But what's really good is that they recently did an event which outlines how to use all of it together. And so if you're thinking about, all right, well, I need to do that data security posture management, I can jump into one of these events and I can watch these videos. They're really good. Like, I'm not a technical person, but they give you a really good overview of how to use the products. So I would highly recommend, from a management perspective, governance, check this out. Watch the videos or the ones that make sense for you. There's also a good adoption piece there too. But expect to see Copilot control system becoming more front and center for you as you manage your Copilot environment. Okay. All right. So we've talked about progress. I keep knocking these over. We talked about progress. I talked to people. We talked about prompts, the governance side of things, and also progress. So the title of this thing was going to be People, Prompts, and Progress. I have to say, I had that idea at the start, and since like talking, like our initial talk, there's been so much that's come out that we've had to, I've sort of re-massaged this whole session. But how do we know that we're actually doing, what does progress actually mean with Copilot? Is it, we turned it on, hooray, we're now AI enabled. What does it actually mean to have progress with Copilot? And how do we move forward? So there's a few things that I would recommend. So one, as you get started, pilot well. I should have made that Copilot well, shouldn't I? That would have been better. But the idea here is that, again, Copilot is going to be personal for individuals, but also for your organization, how you decide to use it. So whether you're going out with the full version of Copilot or whether, gone too far, whether you're going out with the full version of Copilot or just chat, think about your user groups and make sure that they're supported. The thing with chat is that it's included with your licenses already. It's very easy to turn that on and go, whoop, dust your hands of it. I've turned on AI. People aren't, if they're not trained and they're not given the right expectations of what you can do with Copilot, again, they're not going to have a great time with it. So don't forget your free users, but also work with your paid licensed users as well, and teach them how to use Copilot well. Teach them how to prompt, give them those safe spaces, get some real learnings about your use cases that each group might have, and then think about how you roll that out and scale that out to your organization. In terms of your pilot, I'd highly recommend think about who is going to support Copilot. Support for Copilot is weird. So I had someone call and like, Ben, can I have a chat to you about Copilot? Yeah, no worries. He's like, I've been away for 4 weeks and I need to get a summary of all the tasks in my email. How do I do that? Now, if this was another piece of technology, I'd say, go to file, go to save, whatever. Done. See you later. Thanks, Tim. For Copilot, I'd go, well, try this prompt. And I have to say the words to him. And he types it out. Well, let's see what you get. And he presses enter and he's like, that's not quite right. Okay, well, this is why this might not be working. So let's try another prompt. Types it out, still not quite. It's like, maybe 900 is a bit much. And I was like, maybe let's try something else. Let's get Copilot to come up with some instructions on how to summarize emails, and then we'll take those instructions and we'll put that into the researcher agent. It's like, okay, let's try that. So when it comes to support, we have to shift how we're thinking about support. It isn't just problem solving and troubleshooting, it's coaching. It's like coming alongside people and saying, hey, let's work this out together. Because you don't know what's in their emails, right? You don't know what Copilot's going to surface when it's going through their graph connections, right? So you are experiencing Copilot alongside them as they prompt. which is a bit wild. And it means that it's not just a submit a ticket, we'll turn something on. It's working alongside them. That is also a skill that needs to be taught as well. So if you're thinking about your IT teams, your support teams, turning into that coaching enablement type of person, as opposed to a fixer of problems, is a different mindset. So think about how you enable your support team, not just with the license, but with these new skill sets that are required to support people. And again, train, test, explore, so you can roll that out. The other thing that I recommend is enabling teams. I've had some clients and they're thinking about, all right, we're paying for these licenses and they're expensive. We don't know if we're going to get a good result. We'll just give them to the executives because they're the ones who are the most important people in our organizations. Turns out the executives don't really use, like they hand everything off to their EAs. And so them having a Copilot license doesn't really make sense. So when we're thinking about enabling Copilot, I would think about how are you enabling groups of people who are actively using the tools that Copilot works well with. So Outlook, Teams, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, all these tools, group them together. So it might be like an HR group, or it might be like a community engagement group. That way they are sharing knowledge and sharing information. Don't just go managers of that group. You want them to be talking and experimenting together. It also means that they will localize the content for themselves. Again, it's very hard to know the use cases when you're working in IT. You're that few levels separated from what's happening on the ground. One experience we had here was the other client that we said we're rolling out 500 users and we're thinking, oh, we need to have these change champions. The HR team was super keen to jump on board. And from a change manager perspective, sometimes we like to control things a little bit. Like we want to control the messaging, we want to control what's going on. And they said, no, don't worry, we'll roll things out ourselves. And we're like, oh, okay, we'll support you and let us know how you go. Turns out that was the best way to do it because they could take everything that we were teaching them and they localized it. And they were some of the first ones who were like, we need to really explore agents. We need to share prompts. We've already got all these workflows that we want to use Copilot in. All these things that I had no visibility of, but because they could do it at a local level, it worked really well. So localize content where you can and work with your change champions to do that. For change champions, also, remember these are your enthusiasts. These are the people who are trying to break the system. They also tend to be the loudest when you have workshops and they're like, I prefer this thing and I prefer that. It's like, okay, that's fine. But trying to bring them on board is really important. So coaching them so that they're aware of what you can and can't do well. They are probably also the people like, I prefer to use Claude for programming. Like, okay, it's fine, but let's talk about Copilot and we'll keep ourselves focused. Celebrate the work they do and give them recognition. We'll find that your change champions really appreciate when an executive or a senior manager thanks them for their time, because most of them are going to be doing this outside of their BAU, right? So they're going to be doing extra work here. And provide them a platform. So it might be like a change champion community that you can, or a newsletter or something like that comes out. Just nurturing them and just working alongside them is important. And finally, your AI drivers are super, super important. The ones that we see do really well are where we have an individual or a group who is responsible for driving AI in the organization, who will go out and individually talk to different teams, learn about what they're doing, and then sharing content. So as a consultant, often what I would be doing is I will be working alongside that person, making sure that they're up to date with all the latest updates with what's happening in Copilot, and then they can go off and talk to people. And then maybe we develop some training content around that. Again, it's a lot better when you have someone dedicated to that and driving that internally, as opposed to just, switching something on and hoping that people will use it. Don't expect adoption to happen just because of all the hype that's out there about it. Okay, so once you've got it rolled out, the big question you'll get from executives is like, are we actually getting value for money? If you're paying $30 US per month for a full license, what does it actually turn into? One of the things that we really emphasize is that it's a progression. You won't get value straight away in terms of like, you're not going to transform the way you do your organization. You're not going to replace your workforce with AI agents anytime soon, right? It starts here with personal productivity. We need to help people see the value in the individual work, get familiar with the tool, and get to this point where it's like, I can use Copilot to effectively support me in the work that I'm doing. Again, it's unlikely that they're going to have this like amazing transformational moment where they're like, I am now like one with the AI. It's really just, it's the small wins here. It's really about making sure that you're getting some extra benefits, or you can offload some of that mental load to AI. The next step is business value. So this is where we have a group of people, they work on a common workflow, and they look at, oh, hey, this business process that we already have, we use a bit of Outlook. So yeah, an example here is that there's a group, they have an email address which people email, they ask questions about HR. One of the HR team has to be nominated to answer that email for any given day. They go look through all the policies, hunt for the right result, send an email back to that person saying, hey, here's where to go, here's what to do. So we take a process like that and think about where can we insert Copilot into that. So the first point of call might be, hey, if they're sending an email, maybe we can use Copilot in Outlook to assess that email. Then maybe we use Copilot BizChat to look over your SharePoint site, to look for the information, help you draft an email, pop that into Outlook, send that off, right? So that's where we might do a business value process. We might then explore that further and go, hey, actually, that process doesn't sound great in the first place. Maybe we could create an agent to actually do that thing for you instead. And that's sort of where we get to this point here. It's like, actually, your current process, yes, you can inject Copilot to support you through that workflow. That's a great way to think. But maybe we rethink the whole reason why that workflow exists. Are there things that we can do with Copilot, possibly with agents, where someone just sends a chat message to your HR bot as opposed to emailing an inbox? And this progression takes time, right? People need to understand how the tools work to then get to the point where they're creating agents. There's also a danger here as well, where people go here and they try to jump here too quickly. And they try to create an agent and they're like, oh, I'm sure I can create an agent for this. I've heard about MCP and I've heard about, generative answers and all this sort of stuff. And if you don't get the fundamentals of how to prompt and how the tools work, this is harder. So whenever we turn on Copilot for an organization and their executives are like, oh, I've heard about agentic futures and agentic workflows, and we're all going to have our own personal agents in the future. I'm like, well, let's just teach you how to prompt first. Because regardless of whether you're doing agents, interacting with agents, or even creating your own agents, you need to know how to prompt well. You need to know how to instruct the AI to do the thing that you need it to do. And it all comes down to prompting. Like, everything is prompts. This is the continuum. This is the progress that we see for organizations. Now, in terms of the measurement, the great thing here is that there is a really good Copilot analytics tool and a dashboard that's being improved. So if you do need to report up and say, look, here's the usage, here's where people are, here's who's using Copilot, here's who isn't using their license, all those sorts of things you can pull out of this. There's adoption scores, all sorts of things. You can see what's going on with the agents and usage. Now, this is fantastic, but you have to think about how you use this data. So one organization, their thing was, if you're not using AI, if you're not using your Copilot license, we're going to take it away from you. And then you go and talk to that person, and they say, I just haven't had a chance to do the training. I haven't had a chance to play. I just need time. I'm sure I'll get value out of it, but okay, if I'm not using it, someone else can have it. A better option might be to use this and say, look, where are the gaps? Who isn't using it? Who can use it better? So if there is someone who has a license and isn't using it, it might be an indicator that they are sitting. Remember back in the first slide about they're the silent people who just need a bit of extra support, and they might be the ones who benefit the most. So think about how you report, but you can get quite a lot of data out of here. The ones that that exec like are things like Copilot assisted hours. So how many people use Copilot, which is quite good. All right. Okay, so we ripped through quite a lot. So people prompts progress. From an from an IT perspective, I think the big shift is going to be the way we think about supporting this tool and how we roll it out. It is, again, it's a system that has been trained, and so we can give it some sort of outcome that we want. How it gets there is sort of up to the system. I don't know if you look into the AI literature, it's like we don't actually know how it does it sometimes, but that's the challenge, because we're shifting from a system that's been programmed to a system that's been changed. And it will be heavily dependent on how people use prompts if we want to see any of this happen at all. Okay, so yeah, I would say, look, as you move forward, have a play with the tools that Microsoft offer you. There's lots of resources out there. Grab the links if you want. So if you want to, this is the end from me. We can do some Q&A, but I'll share links and stuff, and I'm sure we can share it across the website. On LinkedIn, feel free to jump on there. I will generally be sharing stuff about, hey, check this out. Look at this thing that I just did with Copilot. Can you try it out as yourself? But I like to just, share knowledge and share value there. So if you want to hook up on LinkedIn, happy to have a bit of a chat. But look, all good. All right, so questions? Anything? Or if people want to go, I actually didn't want to know about how to deliver it. I just want to know what Copilot can do. Happy to chat about Copilot itself as well. Yeah.
According to your statistics for who people can use,
Yes.
which is 5, 15,
Oh yeah.
75,
Yes.
and so on. Did you make the statistic for the age of those people?
Oh, really good question. Really good question. So
because you can looking for who this is the age can be effect on the
yeah, okay. So the question there is, does age impact, so an individual's age impact their AI literacy or digital literacy? In those percentages, I haven't looked at any hard and fast data around it. Those are just rough guesstimates around percentages based on experience, more anecdotal. I would say that age isn't probably as big a factor as you think as you might think. It's probably more experience with technology and how comfortable they are with the tech. We were sort of joking about this as well before, is that you might have people who are older who might be uncomfortable with the use of technology, but on the other hand, we have people who are younger who don't understand how to use technology in a corporate setting, and so they are just as challenging to work with as people who have lower digital skills. In a previous life, or many years before doing this, I used to work in digital literacy, and I had to teach people how to use Word and Excel. And we had kids, or we had not kids, but we had people in their 20s, and they were very good on their phones, but you put them in front of a keyboard and a mouse and they were lost, right? So age isn't necessarily the issue. It is that experience with the technology. And so you'll have, I know I've worked with older people and they are like that. Because it's not so much about the technical skills, it's about the thinking about what am I doing. So the people who will be very good at using generative AI are really good leaders who are good at articulating goals and articulating steps on how to achieve things. I think teachers are going to be really good at using generative AI because they can explain things and break problems down or break steps down. So it might be more how you think as opposed to an age. Yep.
Because my experience of this, I found one video. This is in social media.
Yes.
They said, okay, all people looking for this is the new program.
Yep.
Which is without any without any price.
Yep.
And this is can be given to you for making everything for, but the possibility for you is to make a lot of mini teams. Let's go to the social and send this is videos. It will be very benefit for you.
Yep. So in terms of learning content, or they are creating the content.
Yeah, learn the content.
Yeah. So I think more broadly across everywhere, we need better AI literacy. We need people to understand how to use AI. You'll also have like wild use cases from people who are hot on AI. Like there's been stories about how people are using it as a personal therapist, and some of the dangers around that. But then I was talking to somebody else, and they used AI to help them decorate their house. But we also need to warn people about some of the pitfalls. So my father-in-law, he's a graphic designer, but draws caricatures by hand. He doesn't use computers much, and he's retired. And I just sit him down. I said, David, we need to talk. I want to show you some videos that were made recently. I said, if you're on Facebook, you need to watch out for these videos. And it's like the latest VO3 videos are just mind-blowing how good they are. But it's like you need to be critical in what you think about, in how you look at content online. So whether you're creating content, consuming content, whatever, everyone needs to improve their digital literacy or their AI literacy. Yeah. Great. No worries. Yeah.
You told the story about how you were using AI to give a demo.
Yep.
And someone in the legal team mentioned that they had to have access to that project.
Yeah.
And that project was just coincidentally in
Yep.
someone's public cloud. Now, if we were to remove access for such a folder, what context does Copilot save? So, for example, will Copilot still remember that, oh, well, yesterday there was this folder, and next time if I ask it a question related to that project, will it still be able to give me an answer?
No, so Copilot will only access it at the point in time that it has access to. So it's not like a ChatGPT that has memory. So we don't have memory as such in Copilot yet. So you wouldn't have to worry about that. In fact, it can be quite instant. So as soon as that gets locked down, Copilot won't be able to reference it anymore. Now, depending on how you lock that down, it might be a case of Copilot surfaces it and says, here's the file, but I can't do anything with it. So it might tell you that. Depends on how you set that up, but no, it won't remember the context. The only time that it might do that is like, let's say you've saved a copy of that into your OneDrive or something, or saved a copy somewhere else. It might access that copy. Yep.
It's so instant.
Yeah.
It started writing a draft email, and then went, well, I want to get some AI help on this. Went to Copilot and said, hey, I'm trying to write this email and I want to do this. I want to include this information about this. And part of its answer was the content from my draft email.
Yeah.
That's not helping. I want the other stuff, not the draft. So, it's that instant.
Yep.
It picks up those sort of changes.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it takes 5 minutes to work that you saved.
Yeah.
While you're in a live demo.
Yeah, go.
Okay, cool. I had another question, but this time it's more business related. So, what do you think are some common gaps that clients have in their IT setup that they're most excited to fill using Copilot, using AI? So, when you talk to these clients outside, what are they most excited about?
I think it depends on who I talk to. If I talk to like the executives, they're like, oh, we're going to transform this whole organization. Sometimes it's a bit of an ego thing. It's like, we want to be the first whatever person in this industry to do AI. So they're excited about that. For a lot of people, individuals, it's like, I just want to make my job easier. So it could just be as simple as, I have too many emails. I want to get rid of that. Or it might be, I have trouble brainstorming or capturing my ideas, can I get Copilot to do that? It's very personal. Now, from a business perspective, a lot of people are interested in all the sorts of things that they may have in the past created a chatbot for. So things like IT help desk, policy support, all those little processes, there's a lot of interest in those. And that probably sits in the realm of agents. But from a business process perspective, that's a lot of things like approvals, things like all those sorts of stuff. So where people have already thought about, I wish we had automations, or I wish we had a chatbot to solve this, but we haven't had the skill to do either. Copilot is now providing easy access to those sorts of capabilities. So you can spin up an agent without knowing any code at all. You can just say, you're an HR buddy, and your job is to be a super friendly support. Here's your knowledge base in SharePoint. Answer the questions that people have, and I don't have to work on any topics and flows and all those sorts of things. I don't have to worry about trigger phrases and all that sort of stuff. I just put that into an agent and it can do it. So the ability to make it easy to create stuff now is awesome. Yeah. Also, from a governance perspective, it's concerning because you're going to have a whole bunch of stuff being created that you need oversight over. So there's some of those governance tools can do that. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, go for it.
You mentioned during the middle of slides that when you give messy SharePoint files to Copilot,
yeah,
it does not give you the output for the prompt properly. So isn't the whole point of AI, how we use AI is we just dump all the information to it and expect AI to give something meaningful to us. So is Copilot still in the phase where it's still learning more? How is it?
Okay, so the way that it works, right? So Copilot, so we're talking about M365 Copilot here, which can pull on your SharePoint data. What it will do, it'll look at that SharePoint, it'll look at your prompt, what is that you want? It'll hunt in your files, in your emails, your chats, to look for what's most relevant, and then try to make sense of that. Send that to the LLM, you'll get the response back, blah, 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 here's what it is. That's fine, like that process is doing the right thing. The problem is, when it searches SharePoint, is it finding files that are actually current and relevant? So what we're finding with clients is that they've been on SharePoint for 15 years and they have not archived anything, and everything is in multiple folders. And so when Copilot does that search, it looks for what it thinks is relevant, but it might not be. So it's up to you then to go tidy up your files and then give that a better grounding source for it. So if we think about RAG, we think about, what are these, how are we giving it extra resources and knowledge? We need to make sure that knowledge is good. Yep, cool. All right. All right, yes, we're just we've hit almost 5. Sorry, everyone.
Just small questions.
Right.
Is it possible to make medical research or something that's your source is enough with reference and all this is like ChatGPT, or it's
Yeah, so you can point it to your files, you can point it to a SharePoint site, you can create an agent that says, hey, just look at these files, look at nothing else. So yeah, definitely, that's where we create an agent, or maybe even a notebook here. Yeah. Sorry, did you have a question, or? You okay? All right.
So you mentioned SharePoint Advanced Management.
Yes.
When you were outside, and you
Yes.
mentioned it again. What are some features from that you would actually have used with clients more recently that have been very useful?
Yeah, so in terms of SharePoint Advanced Management, it is pretty new and it's still switching on for a lot of clients, but I probably won't get into it right now. What I would recommend though is go back to this website, and I would recommend the oversharing, probably, there is one here that's about oversharing. I would definitely check that one out. It goes through SharePoint Advanced Management and your posture management for data security as well. Yeah. Sorry, I'm happy to chat afterwards. I'm just conscious of time if we need to get kicked out. Yeah. Okay. All right. Great. So thanks so much, everyone, and sorry for going so long.
Ben. Pleasure to have you again at the user group. And again, apologies that we've hit time, so we do need to get people moving before Microsoft locks up. The show notes, all the links, all the, I guess, the slides you're happy for us to share out. So they'll be made available as soon as I get around to it. So all the resources you saw today. Thanks for coming, and we'll definitely see you again next month for a bit of desired state configuration. So more on the configuration side of thing, less of the adoption and change management. But that was some really good stuff. I want to say I learned stuff, but it was more probably stuff I knew about but absolutely forgot. And then you've just showed me again. I was like, oh yes, I'm going to use that. I hope everyone got something valuable out of this, be it outside in the foyer or during the session. And again, thanks for all your support and for making it to these sessions.